Happy Thursday, friends. I'm glad you're here today. Let's get started. I heard from so many of you that you enjoyed filling the message in yesterday that I did the same thing today. So here's our date. Here's the greeting, and then it begins. Use your pictures to help you fill it in. Fairy tales teach us a lesson. We learn from story. And we've got the word misses. So we've been talking about fairy tales and how fairy tales have certain settings that are common and they have characters. The characters usually have a character who's clever and a character who's mischievous. So when we hear that word mischievous, it means a character that's doing something that maybe he or she should not be doing. We know that fairy tales also might have a magical character, and oftentimes the animals in fairy tales can talk, and they might look or dress and do things just like people do. So as you're looking at the different versions of the stories that you're reading, I want you noticing, for instance, with the Three Little Pigs, are they all wearing the same thing in each version, or does the author try to give their own viewing point? So that's sort of fun to look at too. Now, the word mischievous, I want you thinking about the Three Little Pigs. Who is the mischievous character in that story? What is that mischievous character doing? Another thing that we learn about fairy tales is that fairy tales teach us a lesson. So in the story of the Three Little Pigs, what lesson is the author trying to teach us? We know that fairy tales are retold again and again. So when we hear the different versions, it's not an original, it's an author retelling it from the way they want to sort of give their own voice to the story. Thinking about the Three Little Pigs, what lesson do we learn from the versions of the Three Little Pigs? That's what I would like you writing about today. What is the story of the Three Little Pigs trying to teach us? All right, so we are going to now add a 1. Oh my goodness, look at this. So yesterday we had 170. We know when we add 1, only one digit changes. You know it, the 1. 171. If there were 10 days left yesterday, that means now 10 with 1 less is a 9. Oh boy. I always feel that the school year is getting very small when we can count it down on just our 2 hands. So yesterday we had 9 days left together. Let's double check our math. 1 plus 9 is 10. We trade for a 10 rod. 0, 1, 1 plus 7 is 8, and a 100 is 1. 180 as a total with 9 days remaining. That's not very many. Look at our temperature this morning, creeping up again. Yesterday 57, today 60. Getting a little warmer. It felt nice this morning. I wanted to teach you or have you think about a new game today. So I've created a plus and a minus dice. So where you see a +1, there's also a -1. Where you see a +2, there's also a -2. And where you see a +3, there's also a -3. So here is my plus-minus dice. That means my brain is going to go back and forth between addition and subtraction as I'm playing this game. So I have a game board that's already made that looks like this. But if you don't have a game board already made, you start with a plain piece of paper, and all you need to do is draw a line, put in your spaces, and leave a spot perhaps for you to jump. Here's where I can jump. Or you can jump right on your numbers. You can also make it whatever you want. You don't have to use the numbers. You could color with squares. You could make a zigzag or a swirl and make your own game board. I love making game boards. This is just a small, thin piece of paper, but you could create a game board out of a larger piece of paper. If you had a big piece of paper hanging around, you could, or a piece of cardboard from recycling. Those are great things to make game boards with. And think about the other games that you play, Chutes and Ladders or Candyland. Think of those games and the way the person who's created them has sort of made them interesting with pictures. And you could add stickers, so you can get as creative as you want. The important thing is the math part. So for today, I've got, as counters, I can use a nickel. One person could be a nickel, the other person could be a penny. So you don't have to get fancy with your counters. I went into our shell collection and I chose 2 different shells. Those could also work for your playing pieces. So it's completely up to you. Little pebbles, anything you have around that will work as little pieces for your games is great. You can also borrow them from other games you have. So today the purpose is, I'll use a magnet I think right now just to use that as the model. So today's purpose is to roll, and if you roll a minus, you can't start, so you have to keep waiting. If you roll a plus, you can move along. I've rolled a +2, so here's my counter, 1, 2. There's my game piece. Now I go again. I rolled a +1, so I can add 1 more space. I roll again. I rolled a -3. Uh-oh. Back I go. 1, 2, 3. This takes a long time because what's going to happen is you're going to move forward and then you're going to get sent back. And I want you moving and thinking and having your brain flipping back and forth between addition and subtraction. Now I've used the numbers 1, 2, and 3. You can use whatever you want. If you create your own dice, you can do 4, 5, 6. You could do +4, +5, +6, -1, -2, -3. It's totally up to you. The purpose of today is to have you going back and forth quickly between addition and subtraction and noticing how you move forward and backward on your game board as you go along. All right, so I want you thinking about what lessons you've learned from the 3 Little Pigs, if any, but you should have learned something from the 3 Little Pig stories. I want you completing the message today. I'll put that picture up for you on Seesaw so you can fill it out. Yesterday's work was amazing. I loved seeing them all. And then I want you creating your own game board. I've only gone up to 20. You can go much higher. The other thing I thought, if you wanted a real challenge, think about playing it on your 100 grid. How long will it take you with a plus-minus dice to advance along and make it to 100? And the challenge can be, once the winner gets to 100, in order to really win the game, you then have to go backward and make it all the way back to 1. So it's a forward and reverse maybe. You can decide the rules. That's the fun thing about our own board games. All right, today's Thursday. Beautiful sunshine. Make sure you're spending some time outside. Tomorrow's Friday. I will see you then, but until then, keep a picture in your pocket, a poem in your head, and I will do the same.